What's going on YouTube? West Hobbies RC. So today we are going to start building the Arrows F-15. So I got a couple of parts laid out here. Got the elevator half, wings, the other elevator half, the rudder, and the fuselage. So we are going to start with, of course, gluing the tail. So I'm going to be using 30-minute epoxy. So I'm going to get everything ready. We're going to glue the elevator first, then glue the rudders. So I'm going to set the camera up on a tripod, show you guys how I like to glue the tail and marking the foam. So I'm going to get everything ready, set you guys up, and then we'll start with gluing the tail. Okay, so now we're going to start gluing the tail. Unfortunately, I just started recording and the camera shut off, so I already started to score and it didn't save the footage, which I don't understand. So basically, you're just going to want to come through here and score all your foam. X-Acto knife, you just want to put some cut marks. You want to give the surface something to glue to. Any little loose paint like this, we want to get gone. We don't want loose paint. Loose paint is not a good glue joint. We'll take us a little bit of painter's tape, put it down, and peel it off. This will get rid of all of our loose paint. We don't want any loose paint. And then, so now we're going to go ahead and take our elevator halves. And the same thing. We are going to take our X-Acto knife and we're just going to run scores through the foam. Now, don't worry, it doesn't hurt the foam because the glue is going to fill these voids in. You can see here, this is going to give the glue something to bite into. If you don't have nothing for the glue to bite, the glue joint is not good. We need a good, solid, strong glue joint. I do this on all my balsa wood, do this on foam. Anything that I am gluing together gets scored and gives me an incredibly strong joint. So we're going to go one way, and then we're going to come back the other way. I know this is probably not necessary. I know guys that just CA their elevator halves on, but now we have a nice cross-stitch style score marks. And then, so this is going to be a surface that gets pushed up against. So right on this little edge here, it's okay. So now we're going to set this half aside. Now we have this half, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go one way. We're just going to go all the way down. Careful not to cut your wires. That's a bad day. And you just move right along here, scoring it up. And then we're going to go the other way. Nice cut score. And that is going to give you the perfect glue joint. So now we have this side scored too. So now our elevator halves are ready to glue on the airplane. Let's set that side aside, or that guy aside. I already did the other side of the fuselage down here. You can see I cut this up. Just scoring it all up, giving it a nice good mark, something to strong to glue to. So now we're going to go ahead and set our fuselage back up on our foam block here to help protect it. Angle it so you guys can see. Okay, next thing. We are going to get our rubbing alcohol ready and paper towels. That is the thing about gluing with epoxy. You need to make sure you have rubbing alcohol and paper towels handy. So that way, whatever runoff you have, now we have ourselves a mixing cup and a popsicle stick. So now we are ready to glue. So first things first, we need our epoxy. So unfortunately, I ran out of mixing cups and I have not been able to, or I have not ordered them yet. I need to order them, which I'll do after this video. So we're gonna mix it 50-50 like this. Not the most accurate way to do it, but it will work as long as you have an even stream coming out both ends. Let the epoxy run to the bottom so we get a nice full. Oh, I got some already coming on a hardener. Now we just need to get the resin part or the epoxy part. Okay, so now we should have some epoxy here. There we go. And there we go. Okay, so now we're going to get them even and push. We don't need to mix up a lot of epoxy. I don't even know how much we're mixing up. It should be good. There should be plenty of epoxy just for doing the elevators. Okay, so now we're going to set our epoxy back aside and we are going to start mixing. Mixing very thoroughly is important with epoxy. You want to make sure you get a good, strong mix. And get both both parts you need to make sure are together. I like to scrape the cup, scrape the bottom, scrape everything I'm mixing. That way I know for sure that the epoxy is mixed thoroughly and we don't have a bad glue joint. Because that is a bad day if your elevator halves or half of your elevator come off. That would not be good. Alright, so now I'm happy with that. So now we're going to grab the half that's going to go here, which is going to be this guy. We are going to plug it in. Make sure your polarity is correct, because this would not be good if you do not do this and then you have to come back. What did I do with my little... Oh, my exact line. And then you would have to come out and try to fish that out, and that would not be fun at all. So we're just going to cut this little elevator tag off because we don't need it. And it's just something to get in the way of the glue. So now we're going to go ahead, make sure that our brown goes to brown, white goes to white, or golden color, whatever this is. We're going to push till it clips. You should see a nice lock here. This is strong. So now we know we're going to just do a test fit. We know this half goes down. We want this to go like this. Just going to test fit this up real quick. That should test, and that will fit nice and perfect. Nice and dry fit is good. So now we are ready to glue. So now we're going to set that aside like that. We are going to take our epoxy and we're just going to push it into the corners here. Don't be afraid to use your epoxy. It's okay if you have some runoff. It's okay if it makes a mess. We can clean it with the rubbing alcohol. We want a solid glue joint. We do not want this tail coming off in flight. We want to make sure that we have plenty of glue. And if we have to mix more up, we can do that. We can always mix more. It's really hard to add it once everything is glued together. Okay, so now we've got our epoxy done. We have perfect amount for the other side. We are going to fish this cable back down, and we are going to push and push. We're going to make sure we don't have no runoff. Pretty good with that. Now we're going to take a T-pin, the regular T-pin. We are going to push through here. That's going to pin that side into place. We're going to take another T-pin here. And we're going to see where we got to go right here. We're going to push this into place. And we'll take, actually I'm pretty happy with that. We'll take one more and we'll do it right here. And we'll pin that into place. So now the elevator half is done. So we still have enough epoxy for the other side. We're just going to take our rubbing alcohol. We're just going to wipe the edges. Make sure we got everything the way we need. Rub the bottom line here. Okay. So now we can go ahead and spin this guy around. Can you still see what I'm doing? Not really. So let's spin it this way. Okay, let's reposition the camera. Perfect. And now the same thing on this side. We have our rubbing alcohol, we have our epoxy good to go. 30 minutes gives us plenty of working time. Again, we're going to cut this little tab off here. Careful not to cut your wires, because then we have to try to fix it. So now, make sure our polarity is correct. Brown to brown, red to red. Push until it locks. We want to make sure these tabs lock. That will eliminate that plug ever coming off in the future. So we already know how it test fits. So let's just go ahead and grab our epoxy. And let's start pushing it in here. Let's make sure we get a good glue joint. Push our epoxy. scrape the cup to get it all. We need some on this back. We need epoxy here. We actually might need a tad bit more, and we do. That's okay, we can quickly mix a little bit more. We only need the tiniest bit. Okay, come on, go down. So, this is why I always like to mix more than I actually need, because this always sucks when you run out, but that's okay. So let's just quickly mix, and then we can finish getting this elevator half glued. Okay, now we mixed it up, we are good. So let's just get this through here. I just want to make sure that I have more than epoxy than I'll need. I really don't want this thing coming apart, especially if we decide to fly it hard, if we want to do something different in the future, which we are doing something a lot different. But we are going to fly this thing first, get some test flights. Okay, so let's move this guy out of the way. Let's just get a little bit more. Push it around. Now we are going to go ahead, put our connector down, and push this into place. Grab our T-pins. Grab one for now to pin it. Okay, so let's push. Push, make sure we got no epoxy running out, which we don't. Okay, let's pin it. And we have a little bit of epoxy run out right there, which that's okay. That is what rubbing alcohol on a paper towel's for. We'll take it right off like nothing. So now let's go ahead and get the back side of this pinned. And these pins put such a little hole in the foam that you'll never notice them. And then let's go ahead and do this side. And that will now keep the elevator perfectly together. So now our elevator halves are glued. Now we will just let it sit, and then we will go ahead and do the rudders. So I'm gonna let that dry, and then we'll go ahead and get the rudders done. Okay, now that the elevators have dried, I'm gonna go ahead and just glue the rudders off camera, because it's the same thing, scoring the foam, epoxying them into place, letting them sit. I figured I won't bore you guys with another 10 plus minutes of me just gluing the rudders, but same thing, plug them in. I ended up breaking one of these little tabs when I pulled it out, but it is what it is. I'll put a little piece of heat shrink over it. So we're gonna get those scored up, get the rudders glued, and then we can move on to the receiver install, which I am going to end up probably making extensions and extending these wires to bring the receiver up to here, because this is just a cluster of wires, and to shove all this back in there and get the receiver mounted, I'm not happy with that. So I'll just make some 8 to 10 inch extensions, make these up, take this battery tray out, redo all these wires and zip tie them nicer, and then run the wires up to here, and then we're going to cut this off and solder a XT90 on. So I'm going to go get the rudders glued, and then once that's done and drying, we'll be back with making extensions and getting the receiver mounted. All right, so this is where I'm at right now. I went ahead, labeled all the ends of the wire. I went ahead and took all the little labeled pieces off. Got some heat shrink around all the connection points. We don't have to heat shrink these because they have the little locking tabs, so we don't want nothing pulling apart. Put some heat shrink here just to keep the wires together and nice looking. So now we are going to zip tie and clean this mess up. We are going to push everything as far back as possible, and then get this flat under. We got the tray out, so we can get that done, and then we'll go ahead and get the receiver mounted in. We are again going with the 6600T. We'll have telemetry, all that good stuff. So let's get all this rat nest pushed backwards, get the tray back in, and see how good it looks. So we got all the wires run underneath the battery tray, which was a mission and a half. It was not easy. We had to take a lot of foam out to fit all the connectors. Just melted it with a wood burner. Nice and clean install. Everything is pushed back down in there, which is extremely hard to see. We have our straps there. We ended up mounting our receiver right here. Antenna one this way, and then we mounted our satellite here. And we're going to tape this wire down. So now we have to run our battery telemetry wire, which is going to plug into right here on this side. So we'll run it this way, and we're about to cut this connector off now, solder in an XT90, and then we'll run that wire up and through the XT90. For the hatch now, we had to trim this little section out for it to clear the receiver properly. And I just mounted the satellite, so now we're going to have to clear some of this section out because as of right this second, the hatch hits the satellite. So we're going to trim some of that bottom foam off with just a regular like box cutter style. Super sharp, it cuts that foam like nothing. We will be flying on Success 3000 graphenes, so that will slide back up in there. We have it stuck together right now just to see what it looks like. I want to test everything. So now the wings need to come back off though because we're not ready for them yet, but they're just stuck on there. So we're going to go ahead, take the wings back off, cut for the satellite, get this wire taped down, get this wire ran, and cut this connector off, solder us in an XT90, and we should be good to go. So I will be right back. All right, so we got the connector switched over and soldered to XT90, and that's my connector of choice. We have flight pack voltage coming off the connector, ran through heat shrink, we ran it down, around, S'd it over, underneath the battery tray, up, and right into the side of the receiver. And then on this side, we have our satellite hookup and our X-Bus 2. We have a GPS sensor as well as the DSMX satellite. So now, our electronic receiver installed is done. Came out pretty clean, I think. I need to do something with these wires here. It looks horrible, but I'm happy. Canopy, first time seeing if it fits with everything, and it does. So now canopy fits perfectly. I know I said it, but we did have to cut some off the bottom. So now our canopy fits. So now everything is ready to final assemble the wings, hook everything up, make sure everything works, and this airplane will be finished. So I'm going to go ahead and get the wing tube put in, which is super simple, self-explanatory. So you have 2 screws on each wing panel, carbon tube, locking connectors, super easy. Get that put together. Nose cone is magnetic, it's still in the box. Again, we are running off of Turnigy Graphene 3000 Success packs. And we have a few other ones. So we're going to get the wings on and get it all hooked up, plug it in, and see what it does. So I'm ran into my first problem of the entire build, really. The receiver mounting and all that, I won't call a problem. That was just a preference. So I go to put the wings on, and the holes are off by a tiny bit. That one's not so bad. This one's bad enough where it will not go in, as well as this one will not go in at all. That one's off by a significant amount. That one is the only one that would go in. Now I have pushed as hard as I can push on these wings to the point where I'm about to crush foam. And this is where I'm at. So I don't know if this is just mine or if any of you other guys have had this problem with the assembly. So I'm going to take a Dremel and just elongate these holes a little bit because I don't want to cross thread these bolts. I don't want to put them in, yank them down, put them in sideways, because we are going to do a repaint on this model. So I want to be able to get it back apart. So I'm going to go ahead, grab my Dremel, and elongate those holes because I want it to fit nicely, but it is still solid. So I'm going to do that, get the wings on it, and then we'll power it up. All right, so we got the build finished up completely. We got the wings mounted. We just had to push them in tight, open up the holes a little bit, and we got the screws into place, no problem. So that was a quick fix. Everything is glued like it should be. Tail's done. Everything's hooked up. Everything works like it should. So this is where we're at right now. we are hooked up to the Spectrum DX9. So we have rudder, elevator, ailerons, and flaps, as well as motor. Gear works as well. Let's pop the canopy here. So of course the battery is not strapped in right now, but we just have the battery sitting here. When we strap it in, we're going to push it back, strap it in. This wire will tuck over here on the side so it's out of the way. But receiver is hooked up, GPS sensor, satellite. We have, again, battery voltage pack. So now on our radio, if we turn the sound up.
Volume 70.
Look over here. There we go.
Flight pack 22.9 volts.
So we have flight pack voltage. And then of course we have GPS, speed, altitude, all that good stuff. Here. So this will give us our altitude, our speed, flight pack voltage, and BEC voltage. So we have the Arrows F-15 is finished. What a great little jet. Can't wait to fly it.
Pack 22.9 volts.
Turn that down so it's not annoying. But I can't wait to fly this thing. Super excited. Such a cool look. I also can't wait to redo it and make it even better and cooler. But thank you guys so much for watching. Take care. Have a great day.